Welcome to the Prosperity Playground, the podcast where business meets energetics, strategy meets soul, and prosperity becomes inevitable. I'm your host, Anna Lozano, mom, founder, investor, mentor, and energetics in business expert. This is your weekly activation to rewire how you think and feel about wealth, success, and personal power, because it's not about working harder, it's about regulating deeper, aligning stronger, and receiving wider. You don't hustle for your future, you calibrate to your higher self. Join me weekly for high-level conversations with the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs, creators, and thought leaders. True prosperity isn't just about money. It's about alignment, freedom, expansion, and embodying your worth. Welcome to the playground. Let's build your most prosperous life. Welcome back to the Prosperity Playground podcast. Today, I'm joined by Rebecca Campbell, who is an international best-selling author, mystic, spiritual teacher, and creative whose creations have inspired millions of people all over the world. Her best-selling books, oracles, and trainings have been translated into over 40 languages worldwide, and her work has been featured in Vogue, the Sunday Times, Oprah.com, and many more. Her mission is to support people to live a soul-led life and to develop a direct experience of the sacred. Rebecca's events are like full sensory experiences. You always leave having shifted something energetically and connected more deeply to your soul. Her latest book, Your Soul Had a Dream, Your Life Is It, and her newest oracle deck, The Inner Temple, are both out right now. In this episode, we dive into building soul-led businesses in the Aquarian Age, bringing our ideas to life with structure, shifting creative blocks through the body, and of course, motherhood and how motherhood shifts absolutely everything for us. I am so excited for the show. I'm so excited for you to connect with me via DM on Instagram. Let me know what lands. Let me know what resonates. And I hope you enjoy today's conversation. All right, Rebecca Campbell, welcome to the Prosperity Playground podcast. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you, Anna. Me too. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. So your newest creation, she is gorgeous. The Inner Temple Oracle. Oh my gosh, you're launching it on your 44th birthday. How exciting.
I know. Here she is. If anyone's watching, you might just be hearing. If you're watching, it's black and gold.
I just saw it. I was like, oh my gosh, I need my hands on her like right now. And I have your other one right beside me. I have this one right next to me.
The rose.
Well.
Oh, gorgeous. That one's so pretty.
Would you be open to opening this conversation with pulling a card for us and the collective
Of course.
and the listeners?
Yeah, let's do it. All right.
So special that we got this behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one. It's the unhookable card. I love this one. It's the woman who's kind of like not giving
Yes.
and she's just kind of like, it's like, you know what? I've done the work. I am not going to get hooked this time. It's like, I had a jumper card, which is this. It's actually the part of the polarity suit, which basically means there's two meanings. And it's the trapped freedom card. So it's kind of like the inquiry is kind of like, where in your life are you feeling restricted and trapped? And because often when we feel trapped, we're probably not in alignment with our soul. It's like if we feel captive in a way, it's like, okay, how can I release that so I can feel more free? Which I think in the topic of your podcast, it's perfect.
It's so perfect. And also being in this full moon that just passed and the eclipse season, there's so much release happening and transformation as we really move into this deepest truth. I'd love to start off the conversation. Thank you for pulling those, really to understand your process, your creative process. How do these downloads come through for your product? And then how do you actually create that into a physical product, which you've been doing for years now with your decks and your books and all of the beautiful creations that you put out into the world?
Well, good question. So I feel like for me, because I used to work as a creative director in advertising, my job when I first started was literally coming up with ideas and headlines. That was my job. So I kind of learned how to not be attached to creative ideas and also be able to create on deadline, which I think all creatives need because otherwise I'd still be writing my first book if I didn't have a deadline, you know? Right. I remember when I finished my first book and I was like, actually, my first book was called Light is the New Black. And then the last thing I wrote was a poem called Rise, Sister, Rise. And I said to my editor at the time, maybe this book should be Rise, Sister, Rise. And she's like, no, that's your next book. I'm like, oh yeah. So it was a perfect example. So I think that training definitely helped me be confident when it came to creating. Because I think creativity, like intuition, it requires courage to trust it. And if we don't, if we're not able to ground it into the physical in structured, ordered ways, it will just always remain here in the unseen. So I think that's always been a thing for me. I've always got 100 ideas on the go and I've learned to just focus on one at a time. And so what I'll normally do, how I work is ideas tend to come in fully formed on a conceptual level. So like the concept of inner temple, for example, which is this oracle, it was probably 7 or 8 years ago. I was in my kirtan chanting teacher training and I kept seeing this temple, and it was like the temple of the heart, which if you open the box, you've got this woman, is basically what that is. It's a woman, if you're just listening, it's a woman with like a temple in her heart and light emanating from it. And I was actually working on my first deck at the time, the Work Your Light deck, and there's a card in there called the Inner Temple. And so it's a concept that's been around for quite some time, and I tend to work energetically. So there's like I would call it like a muse or guides, but it's definitely like an energy that I'm working with in collaboration. And so with that one, it took a little while for it to come into form of what it was. At first, it was my Inner Temple Mystery School and then the deck. Okay. And so the next part of the process for me, particularly if it's a deck or a book as well, is a big wall with extra sticky Post-it notes. Yes. And I will just like put everything up on the wall. And I'm Scorpio, Virgo rising, Aries moon. So I'm like, I go really deep, but I also need structure and order, and I move fast. Yes. So it's very contradicting, my chart. I kind of argue with myself. But yeah, I'm looking to my right because I've got a wall with lots of Post-it notes at the moment. And so I'll just put it all up there. I try not to, if you imagine creativity, like if you've got a hose, you don't want to squeeze it too much for perfection, particularly at that beginning phase, because it'll just kind of backlog and you need the motion, or I do anyway. So I'll fill the wall and then I'll group everything and try and go big and then
narrow down
in and like find some order. So I'm constantly doing that. For a deck, I'll once I've got my card titles, I'll do a mood board on each card. I will have already done like a project mood board. I'll do that for anything I'm working on, whether it's a course or a book or whatever. I'll often create a playlist too. So I'm like, it's like I'm eating, breathing, sleeping, whatever this container is. Yeah. And and then I tend to do most of my writing while I walk in the morning in nature, particularly if it's summer or spring. And and so I'll do that on my phone. And I find decks really easy to write in that way. I'm a mum, 2 young kids, like finding space is a lot more challenging than it used to. But yeah, decks I find a lot easier than books these days because it's more bite size. And so each day I'll be like, okay, I've got 44 cards to do. Today is the unhookable day. This is what we're doing today. Yeah. And so I'll break it down like that. Yeah.
I love that. That's a beautiful process, because for people listening that, they're channeling or they're mega creative, it's like, how do we then structure that? Because oftentimes, like you said, it can live in this whimsical space without rooting and grounding and moving into that action. Now, tell us about any creative blocks. Do those come for you? I mean, you're busy, you have children, you have a successful business. What happens if you get stuck or blocked? Like, what is your process moving through that?
So particularly when I'm writing, if I do feel blocked, it's often because like there's an emotion that I'm not dealing with, or I might be frustrated or something. And very often, sometimes it can actually be part of the energy that I'm working with. And I forget this a lot, but the best way to move through it is actually to write through it. And even if it's not something relevant to the process that I'm going through, I'll always be like, okay, cool. What do I need to hear today? And I'll write that down. In most cases, it is relevant to the project I'm working on. In the case that it's not, it'll just be for me. But yeah, so I find that if I'm avoiding something emotionally, or I'm frustrated or something like that, or even if I'm just annoyed that I'm blocked, like
Exactly.
expressing that. Dance also really helps me, like putting on a music, like a music song that matches my energy, whether it's frustration or sadness or whatever it is. And so it's moving through me. I think that's why I really like creating in motion, because otherwise I can get really stagnant.
I've never heard of that. I think that's a fantastic idea, because as you're moving and you're in the creativity, you're moving the energy. Tell us about the music matching the emotion. So like if you're angry, are you putting on like, I don't know, heavy metal?
So like my favorite song at the moment is Everybody Scream by Florence. I don't know if you've heard it.
Yes.
It's so good.
So good.
I mean, that's Sia, Florence and the Machine there. That's my ultimate favorite type of music. The Staves, I like them too. But yeah, so just finding the music, and because like sound is vibration, and it just helps us move things out of our energy field. Yeah. So I think that's a really good one. I'm trying to think what else I do if I'm blocked.
Or is it more just ease and flow for you? Like when you're in creation, you're in creation. What do you find?
I know when so I've learned how to create the conditions to avoid being blocked, which doesn't mean I have ultimate control over them. So for example, I'm talking to you, it's Wednesday. Now, this is my recording day. It's my day where I'm on camera. If I need to record a class for the Sanctuary, my membership, if I've got a course coming up, if I need to do if I've got a launch and I need social media videos or doing amazing podcasts like this, there'll be a window when I do that. So, and I've separated in my house. This is now, it was my office, but it's now my studio. So there's some lights here. I used to do the setup and set down, and it was just, it gives me an excuse to not do something. And it'll bleed into some other time. Like now that I'm a mum, I like have to stay on it, because it's just like, right, I've got 3 hours before the kids get home, go, you know? So I think in some way I don't believe it's easier, but in some ways it's easier to not procrastinate now that I've got kids.
Absolutely.
Do you have kids?
Yes, I have 2 girls, 7 and 9, and you know, we're doing school in Mexico right now. That finishes at 1:45. So
my God. That is not much to create it.
So
well
time
done.
blocking is even more like structured right now. So let's dive into motherhood. So you were a creator and entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur before children. What shifted for you specifically with motherhood?
Oh,
everything.
Like, absolutely everything. I don't even know how to answer that. I mean, I think I was able to focus more. I mean, my brain wasn't as on it like it was. Like I didn't retain, but I was able to prioritize what actually was going to move the needle. So there's that. I think that on an emotional level, but this feels bigger than emotional. It's like nervous system, body, everything level. Definitely something awoke in me, which was like that mother roar to protect all the planet, basically. And what else? I mean, it hurled me into deeper healing than I ever was expecting, like at an ancestral and nervous system level. It also invited me to step more into my power. my intuition. Yeah. So ultimately really, really positive things, and so challenging too. It's like, yeah. And like my capacity to love, I had no clue how huge that was. But then that almost ripped me apart, because I was like looking at my son and how he looked at me with all that love. And like, oh my gosh, how can I possibly receive all of that?
Yeah.
And if he came in like that, then I did too. And so it really undid me.
Yeah.
All of the spiritual principles and metaphors and teachings that I'd learned for decades, it's like all of that ran through my body, and it was like, whoa, okay.
This is even this extra layer of depth that I've been teaching for so
Yes.
long.
And then even like with the material that I teach, so my work is about intuition, it's about the soul, and I devoted my life and was very like, I felt confident in how I'd really aligned my life to live in alignment with my soul. But it wasn't until I had kids that I realized I was still compartmentalizing my spiritual life with my normal life. And, you know, even when I used to coach people who were mums before I was a mum, I remember really harping on about like, come on, you got to do your morning practice. You got to da, 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 da. And I had no clue.
Yeah.
I had no clue that, no, like every morning you're going to be woken up by a crying baby, and then you have to do a nappy, and like,
They need
like,
you.
do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Or you got to get the kids to school, and what day is it? And do they need their swimming gear? What do they need? Like, of course I'm going to look at my phone before 9 a.m. Do you know what I mean?
All of those things we taught pre-kids. It's like I scrapped my morning rituals and green juice.
Did you?
Of course, it was just impossible.
How has your spiritual practice changed?
You know, there's a lot more grace. You know, I felt that there was a lot more structure and rigidity around spirituality pre-children, and the softening and the moving into the feminine. I feel like you're naturally very embodied in your feminine. For me, my masculine would thrive in business. And so when I had my girls, and I have 2 girls, it just completely shifted. One, it was impossible to do things and build and scale the way that I had before. There just was not enough of me to go around. And also, I feel for me, the most important shift was really the prioritization and saying, like, looking at these 2 souls and saying, like, you're my most important project. Like, yes, I get to be a successful entrepreneur. Yes, I get to do those things, but you are most important. And therefore, everything circles around the family nucleus, the family unit. And that for me was really deep, and it's softened me. It's allowed me to move more into my feminine as much as I resisted. I remember reading your books and I was like, this is great for her. And I was still in my masculine hustle. And, you know, I just gifted Rise Sister Rise to my dear friend, Renee Warren. And, you know, the book, how old is the book now?
Well, I think it must be 8 years or 9 years.
And yet I find it so relevant right now, as so many of us are, you know, finally dropping that resistance to the way we knew how to build. And so I'd love to move into that. You know, we're in the Aquarian age. Entrepreneurship is shifting. Like, how do you see that? Like, how do you see that for the collective and female founders who, you know, have big visions, they have huge goals, they're mums? What does this mean for us?
Look, I think we're in a really interesting time where it could go a couple of different ways. What I'm noticing in my peers is that a lot of people are reducing their teams to get the potency back. I think in periods where, which doesn't mean the scaling isn't possible, but there's like I got to get my finger back on the pulse and be back into the devotion, because, you know, so I've got a couple of cards in this deck. One of them is the Mystic and the Machine, which is essentially the difference between creating and producing. And I think in our world of content and scrolling and comparison and like, we can all of a sudden like go from a really simple heart-led creative or just heart-led business that we got into because we love that thing, to boom, 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 and building and building and building. And then all of a sudden it's like you're an employee in a system again, you know, which is exactly what maybe you didn't want in the first place. So yeah, I mean, I've had an interesting journey with it. I'm constantly trying different things to try and figure out how to do it. I often will be like, you know what? Maybe I just want to create. Maybe what if I just did books and decks, like physical products? Like, what if I didn't do all of that? And then I throw myself fully in whatever I do. There was one year, so my husband was part of my business for 7 years, and we've just done a shift. He's still doing parts of the business, like events and retreats, because it's like so related to our life, but he's got another project that he's working on. And so I've just made a shift into having brand management. So a company's taking over my digital. And it's
how does it feel?
It's hard. It's really challenging, but I know, but it's also amazing. Both. There's been like, you know, when you're going into different systems and companies and all of that, it's just like, you know. But ultimately I know it was a full body yes for me. There was a year, we had our most successful year last year, and like the profit was really good, and it was the year that we actually went back down. We reduced how many people we had. The year before we attempted to scale. And it's not like it didn't work, but it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. And so that's why I was able to make the decision for us not to run it here. Through my husband and I, we also were like, we just want our relationship back. We're just talking about work all the time, you know? And and we're passionate people. We want to, but yeah, we needed a little bit more boundaries. So anyway, but when I look back on that year that I'm glad that we did that, because it meant that we had no regrets and we're able to be like, no, this is what we want, and let's see if we can receive support from elsewhere. So my decision to do that is essentially, I really want to be in the devotion of my connection to spirit. I want to do the stuff that only I can do. I want to create beauty, inspire people, like talk to people like you, rather than, you know, freaking out about a funnel or whatever, you know. And I think my challenge has always been, and like, this is my masculine, like I'm a 4 on the Enneagram with a 3 wing, and I can step into my 3 wing, which is the achiever. I can do the systems, I can do the business meetings, the operation, I can do it all. But it's at the cost of the purity of my channel or my sanity and nervous system. So yeah.
And this clarity is so beautiful. And I think it gives permission to the listeners, you know, if something's on your heart and you just know that this is this next path for you. Because I mean, for me, I open up social now and it's so overwhelming, you know, with AI, there's so much content, and now everyone's a content producer and there's so much noise. And it's like, how do you actually authentically in your truth stand out? And I feel like for you, you know, even like you said, step back and put the pulse back on the heartbeat, which is you. We're coming to listen to your channeling, your wisdom for the collective. We're buying your product because it is pure divine co-creation. And I don't think it needs much more noise around it. And I think that's a big part of the Aquarian Age, is like, what feels good in this automated era that we're moving into? Like, how do we connect with the authenticity? How do we connect with community? And how do we do it from this place of true integrity and intuition and heart? Because people, we're in the feeling era. People will feel it.
So true. It's so true. And because it's, you know, I'm noticing, like, particularly people who do events and things like that. Like, I know that in some cases, for some of us, it's been harder to get people to places since COVID. And yet the guidance I've been getting is to gather people. And so I'm looking at like how can I look at the in person, and there's ways to do in person in a, you know, in a prosperous way for sure, but like the things that are, not everything is for the profit, you know, or, particularly if you're in devotion, nothing is. But do you know what I mean? It's easy to make decisions just based on that, but we gotta keep the human in it. That's what I'm getting. So I'm doing that's actually been a shift that I have made. I want to make sure I have like the real tactile opportunities as well as the other, you know?
Yes.
So, but it's an interesting time. And it's interesting with the jumper card I pulled, which is trapped freedom. So it's essentially, it actually came from I did a mushroom journey with a therapist, or my friend who's a therapist. And it was, I knew that I needed a change within my business, and I wanted to look at it basically. And so on the card, you have a woman who's essentially in the bottom of the ocean. And this was the visual I got. And it was me, and I was looking around the ocean in the depths, and all I wanted to do was swim with the whales. And that to me was like, you know, be in alignment with my soul, create freedom. Exactly. But I had around me this perspex dome of glass. And so I couldn't get out. Like I was there in the bottom of the ocean, but there was no room. It was like, oh, and I realized that, what the perspex represented were helpful people and systems and all different things that I had created and called in, and they were so in alignment when they were, and they were designed to protect me and support me. But I had expanded and grown. The world had changed. The age had changed. And yeah, and so that was when I'm like, okay, I need a different way of doing this. I need to create a container so I can do more of what I love, rather than, you know, holding the structure of this business that I never even wanted to create in the first place. Like, I'm very grateful I have a business, but I never aspired to have a business. I aspired to create.
Yeah, exactly. So what was that inspiration? Because you did have a high powered career in London, correct? And that shift, what was that calling? Like, if you look back at the beginning.
Well, from an early age, I had a couple of awakening experiences, but never saw that, I guess, it ended up as a passion, like exploring the mysteries and intuition and the soul. It was a passion that I trained in. I was very qualified in, but I never saw it as a career because I always knew I wanted to create. Like, I went to art school, and then I went into media. When I was a creative director, I worked with illustrators and artists, and like so much of that I loved. And so, yeah, so I guess I would say that like the two parts of me were creative and then mystic. And yeah, it was around my Saturn returns, after had a couple of losses in succession. So my 11-year relationship ended. So it was my relationship I'd had my whole adult life. And then two of my best friends passed away within a couple of months of each other. And it was like, I think often when we experience grief or rock bottoms, there's like this doorway that we can walk through. It's like, for me, it was like through the grief, my ego, and when you experience death unexpectedly, or, you know, big things that rock you like that, it makes you question, like, what's the point? What am I doing? Yes. And so around that time, in the lead up to it, I was definitely waking up in the middle of the night going, I think maybe my career isn't what I meant to do for the rest of my life, which was like shattering to me because I devoted so much to it. And so I did not want to believe that, because I've been working so hard. I was so close to like reaching the goals and doing the things and
The titles,
yeah, but I think grief has its way with you, and that it was the pressure and the cracking open of my heart, and that invited my soul to come in more fully, I think. Yeah.
And I can say thank you. Like, thank you for listening, because what you've done and the impact you've had on so many women and just humans around the world has just been tremendous. Like when you look at that, like how do you feel? And not so, it's not a question connected to ego. Ego obviously likes to creep in, but it's like you've had tremendous impact on the world with your work. Like how does that land for you?
I don't really know how to answer that. Like, I feel kind of a couple of things. One is like when I was 25, I had a vision of it. Even before that I did. And I remember not knowing what it meant or how it was going to happen, but I knew that it was going to happen. And I'd write in my journal every day, I've got a job that only I can do. I inspire millions of people around the world. And I wrote that like thousands of times. Yes. And so I feel proud of that that version of me for just trusting it. Like I feel like she had just like blind belief. Yeah. But she just knew. But I guess I do believe that we all have a path. Yeah. And that life is supporting us to do that. Yeah. As far as like how does it feel with like the knowledge of the reach, like I genuinely feel like I'm a conduit for something. And I feel proud when I create something beautiful because that takes a lot of effort to make sure the energy is refined. Yeah. But I do feel like I'm a conduit for that, and I'm proud of the end creation, but that it doesn't feel like it's me, if you know what I mean. Like I'm not like I have done this. Yeah. Like I feel proud that I've shown up, but it feels like this channel through you, and yet you're the vessel that has showed up and taking the action to bring it to life with co-creation. Do you believe we all have this ability to channel? Yeah, I think we all do. I think what you would channel and I would channel would never be the same thing. Yeah. That's the case for every single person on the planet. There might be some of us who channel similar things. There might be some of us who channel the same energy, but it will always come through slightly different. And I think this is like my invitation to anyone who is confident in their creativity or not confident in their creativity. Like do it in a way that only you can. Like be inspired by other people, but like trust your unique voice, because otherwise it's just gonna it'll warp the transmission. Yeah. It'll be washed down. I think that's also so connected to what we spoke about in the, being in the Aquarian age is like, that's what's going to allow you to stand out. So if you have the confidence, just to go for your thing, your creation that is meant to come through you, that alone holds its own unique blueprint, its own unique frequency, and it will be your own unique differentiator versus being another washed down version of someone else. I think this is so key for us to remember as we do show up in this overcrowded, every industry is overcrowded post-COVID, it feels like, but we bring it our own unique gifts. I wanted to tap into just a little bit about your psilocybin journey that you touched upon and the impact, because you said specifically online, I remember tuning into this, that it had an impact on your nervous system, like something that there was a profound shift after the journey. If you could take us through it. Yeah. I have done a couple, and every time I have noticed a shift. And look, I'm not going to talk about the scientific facts of what happened, but I'll tell you about the palpable change in me. What it felt like has happened each time for me is because I'm very I'm really good at doing the work and analyzing and doing the therapy, and I've been circling around some issues for a very, very long time. So I've looked at things at different angles. Yeah. So for me to do, when I do the journey, and I also am very, like, going into altered space is like, that's just like me having a cup of tea, So I don't need like anything to help me do that. And so, and as a result, like I did not do plant medicine, even though I studied herbalism, until I got the guidance like really strongly. And I've only done it 4 times, and every single time it was just deeply guided. So each time I've had an experience where I definitely see things like I get some kind of like visual metaphor, like a dream, right? But it's not what I'm seeing so much. It's that my whole system is relaxed while I'm seeing this scene, right?
Hey.
And I can feel my brain where, you know, when you have a scenario, a relationship, whatever it is that like you're like, oh, I can't move through this. You find yourself looping round and round and round, and you're trying really hard to move
trying
through
here.
it, and you know you shouldn't be saying it or reacting, and you could coach yourself or someone else to not do it, but still it's a nervous system reaction. It's there, and so what I noticed, and the journey that I'm talking about here, the whole journey was around this issue. Like I went in super clear on the thing that I wanted to clear or understand or whatever. So I think that helps rather than just be like, see what happens,
to everything.
you know?
Yeah.
So I was laser focused, and I experienced, I think it was just my whole system being so relaxed with no charge while I observed the scenario. And I could feel a kind of recalibration and rewiring happening as it happened. Now, it doesn't mean that after that there was zero charge, but I wasn't hooked like I was before. Yeah. And I was able to slow down my thinking so I could consciously choose not to react rather than be like, oh, here's the reaction, like this body reaction even before my brain comes in.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And so so it's been several months now post, what, like when you feel that possible charge, what's your process? Like, do you bring awareness to it, and then like, how do you pick yourself out?
Okay, so the most recent one, I noticed, and I've had this even when I was a creative director, right? Mm-hmm. I noticed what would come online with me when I was, say, reviewing creative work or reviewing something in my tone of voice, right? Yeah. And it was like frustration in my throat. So doing the journey, I noticed a scenario from childhood, and that I felt that way when there was incongruence, right? And that my gift came from that, which is refining energy, bringing clarity, harmony of vibration. It really, that scenario or relationship or whatever was like the food to help me create that gift. Yeah. And it's understandable why I felt like that then. And so with that knowledge and having recalibrated in the journey, if it comes up, and it definitely comes up, I'm like, I know that frustration leads to withholding for me. Right. And so I take myself back and be like, okay, no, you've got the gift here. You can refine it. It's okay. How can you clearly communicate? Yeah. So I'm able to kind of like talk to myself. Whereas before I would just be in this like freeze state, really.
Before we close, I'd love for you to share anything that's coming through for you specifically for the listeners of this podcast. If there's any download message that just needs to be shared.
I think the main one for these days, where as leaders, it's like there's so many things that we can do, so many things we want to do, so many things that people think we should do. I really keep getting the same thing over and over again, which is we each hold a thread for the healing of humanity. Trust the one that you came in here to carry. So you don't have to carry it all. You don't need to do all the things. Like you can refine. You can choose the thing that really lights you up and focus on that. You know, this is the time that we came to stand shoulder to shoulder and eye to eye. We're not in competition. Don't compare yourself. Like, these are the times of collaboration, which doesn't mean like you need to go into business with someone. It's just like, just trust that your path is your path, and don't keep looking to the side to see whatever everyone else is doing.
Now, what about for the women in the messy middle who right now may not know what their path is or what their thread is?
I'd say follow what lights you up.
Yeah.
Because when you're lit up, the trail appears. Like when you're lit up, it's innate that it will unfold from there. What stops most of us living a soul-led life or an intuitive life is that, and intuition is a superpower. Yeah. Like it really is, but it never makes perfect sense, right? You never receive every single step along the way. You might see 10 steps ahead and 1 step ahead. And so that's why it's like, just take the next step. What's the next right step to do? And the path always does appear.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful message, because we fear the unknown. There's uncertainty. There's this lack of safety sometimes. But what about the unknown for you? Have you reframed it? Like, how do you feel in the unknown?
I feel like I'm in the unknown all the time now since I've had kids. Because it's like, yeah, because it's like the moment you think that you know what you're doing, they change. And so it's been a really good teacher in that sense. And there's some big parts of my life I feel like I'm always in the unknown about. Like there's always a question, where should I live? Where should we live? Where should the kids go to school? It's like my whole life I've had that question. And so I'm learning to be like, hang on. If I look back, like I've had a couple conversations with people varying ages, like, and particularly some a lot older than me, where we've all basically said, if I look at my life, like there is this thread that seems like it's woven. Like I did not expect that to happen, but that was meant to happen, you know? And so I'm just starting to, trust that I don't know. I might have goals, but maybe, you know, like, and I think from my perspective, like I'm all about like the soul, right? And I'm really questioning how much is destined and how much is free will, how much is planned in advance, and how much we definitely have control on how we react, how we respond, the energy we bring. So I'm not saying it's all destined, but I don't know.
I love that curiosity. I really do. So beautiful. Okay, I have 3 final questions for you. So your future self, 20 years from today, what message does she have for Rebecca in the here and the now?
Slow down.
Oof. Yes. Time is flying by. Like, has it not fastened with children?
Truly. Oh. Yeah. Yeah.
Your legacy as a parent, obviously this is such a deep and meaningful role for you. What's one truth that you hope they hold in their hearts, just based on the way that you show up every day as you?
That they're held beyond what they could imagine, by ancestors, by the earth, and that the right people will appear on their path. Even if I go, like the people will come that are meant for them. Yeah.
Goosebumps. And what's your definition of prosperity?
Oh, what a good one. I think it's definitely like around like the sweetness of life. Like it's like we've got an apple tree here. It's like picking apples. Which obviously means the time to do that. It's pretty much a full-time job for me on the weekends these days. But it's like, it's like the most simplest nature-based things and having the time to prioritize them. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Tell us where we can get the deck. Tell us when it's launching. Tell us where to find all your magic.
So the deck is the Inner Temple Oracle. It's out September 16. You can get it on my website, rebeccacampbell.me, or, like Amazon and all the places, the bookstores. And then, yeah, my latest book is Your Soul Had a Dream, Your Life Is It. And yeah, you can find that as well. There's a lot on motherhood actually in this book too. So yeah.
I have the deck waiting in pre-order, and I can't wait to get my hands on the book. Thank you so much for your time. You're such a light in this world. I'm so grateful for you being here, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me on today's episode of the Prosperity Playground podcast. If this convo sparked something in you, be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts so you never miss your weekly activation. If you enjoyed the conversation, please rate and review. Your feedback helps us reach more souls just like you who are ready to calibrate to their most prosperous life. Know someone who needs this frequency boost? Share the episode to Instagram and tag me @_Anna Lozano so we can grow our energetically aligned community together. And please remember, true prosperity is about alignment, freedom, expansion, and embodying your worth today. See you on the next activation.